Hey guys, welcome back to the Girlfriends and Goals podcast YouTube channel. My name is Samaria, and this is my best friend and co-host Miyosha. We are back to review Married at First Sight season 15, and this is episode 1, which was 3 hours long. Why? I don't know, because it definitely didn't need to be, but we're just going to give our first impressions of the individuals and the pairings, and then talk about the Bachelor and Bachelorette parties, and then we'll end on like Justin and Alexis, like their wedding, and what we thought about that. All right, so but before we do that, guys, please make sure you subscribe. We are trying to reach 1,000 during this season. Okay, we're over halfway there, so please, if you are watching this, go ahead and subscribe. We'll be here all season long. All right.
Long.
Really, because this isn't going to end until like November, I think, this season. But okay, so let's start kind of easy with Lindy and Miguel. So she's 29 and he's 35, which I think is a good like age range. Any thoughts about her or him?
Other than, well, I guess, so what she grew up sheltered. She said that she has never danced, never been to a dance, which is interesting, that she's focusing on that point because she's 29. So maybe we'll find out more about maybe when she left home and like what her experience has been since, her upbringing.
So she did say like she went to college and had a one night stand. That was the one who said that, right? So I think she's moved away from being sheltered, but that was just like her background story. Everybody needs one of those.
But the way she was acting at the Bachelorette, it seemed like she was still sheltered, but okay.
She probably still has a lot of those values. Like you could take the girl out of the sheltered home, but you can't take the sheltered home out of the girl.
Well, I'm not even gonna say what I was gonna say. I'll leave that out. But yeah, so my first impression is she's very bubbly, very outgoing, which I think feels so far to be the opposite of Miguel in that he's into this cosplay and Dungeons and Dragons, which is interesting, this whole fantasy world thing. But he seems to be more quiet, laid back. And I don't know if it's just maybe in initial social settings. The energy I got from the both of them felt opposite. When he was with the group, he seemed to be more quiet and she was just like talking. So
yeah, girl, she's a talker for sure. At first I was like, oh, she seems really sweet and a little bit emotional. Now with Miguel, I think he's unique, but he has to be very careful about when he brings out certain parts of his uniqueness. And so it's not bad that he's unique, but it's just like you don't want to give that to someone. Like we all have a little bit of weird in us, And so we expect that down the road, but I hope he doesn't start off like that. In this episode, it seemed like with the dressing up to meet his friends, with him doing flips in the park or whatever, like it's like he really wanted it on full display. And so I just hope he doesn't start off like that, because that doesn't make you likable.
That, and I know he mentioned that he wants his spouse to maybe join in. So I just hope that he's okay if maybe he's paired with someone where it's like, okay, I'm not into it, but that's your thing. I'll support you from a distance, but I hope he's okay with that and not expecting that they were going to pair him with someone who's just as into it as he is.
He is. So the thing that they seem to have in common for me is that they both want a commitment really badly. But I feel like that's so many people who come on this show. So I don't really know that that's a good enough reason to pair them with each other. But maybe they'll work out. I don't know.
Yeah, that, and I thought what was interesting is how much she was focusing on how much she doesn't want a person she can run over. And yeah, that commentary was just interesting to me. And so I understand like none of us want to see people in positions where they're being pushed over, but she talked about it a lot.
Was she the one who said that, or was it
No, it was Lindy.
Kristen.
No, it was Lindy.
No, not Kristen, Morgan.
I thought I heard Lindy say it as well when even when her friends were talking about how she was hangry.
Okay.
Yeah, that
I
whole
remember
sit down
hangry was her.
that
Okay.
whole sit down conversation. I hope maybe I'm misremembering, but I wrote down that she said that she wants someone that she can't just push all over and that's going to
Mhm.
stand their ground with her.
Yeah.
Because she said that she's been with someone in the past where she's done that. And yeah, so the vibe that I got from Miguel wasn't that he was necessarily a pushover.
Right.
I just don't know if from what I've seen, it doesn't seem like he's maybe the type to like push back, push back. I don't know.
Yeah, whenever somebody says that, it's like, okay, nobody wants a pushover, but are you saying that because you're somebody who's gonna push somebody's button so much so that they're either gonna have to be really aggressive back or just fold, you know? So
Yeah.
I'm interested in seeing how that works out.
Yeah, I was just like, that's something. It's just interesting that she talked about that as much as she
Hmm.
did so early on, because I thought like, oh, well, are you trying to tell us that you're another Lindsay? But
You know who I think is another Lindsay, and we can just cut right to this couple since
mm,
we're on the topic of women like not wanting pushover
mm,
spouses, but Morgan and Ben. So I know this isn't our predictions episode. We're just giving first impressions right now, but I can already say immediately no. Like, so she's very much like Lindsay energy to me.
okay.
And he has his own quirks, like being so cheap. I don't really understand. But yeah, I think Morgan, I wrote down she's very intense and she's not
Mhm.
looking to tone it down either. And so that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like if she would come on like, yes, I'm an intense person, but I'm trying to figure out what our blend is, what our mesh is, that would be one thing. But it seems like she's coming in and just being like, I'm intense and I'm gonna be intense. And I don't like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, she flat out said that she's not looking to be controlled. And it's like, okay, well, she even said like, hey, I want to keep my freedom, my independence. I'm not looking to be controlled. And so all of the things she was saying, it just left me feeling like, okay, well, a partnership shouldn't lean in so much on those
Mhm.
things, but are you really open to making slight adjustments to be partnered? Are you
But
interested
also,
in partnership?
yes, but also why is that your first instinct? Like why, why are you going immediately to, oh, I'm about to get married to a stranger, but I don't want to be controlled? Like, is that your view of marriage? Do you think that's
Mhm.
society's view of marriage? Like, I really want to uncover why that's where she went so quickly.
That, and let's not skip over the fact that she chipped her friend's tooth. I'm sorry. When they showed the friend at the table, when she said that she was the one that chipped her tooth, I couldn't stop looking at it.
Girl, too funny. She said during this pandemic, I got all this like aggression in me and I had to get it out or whatever. But yeah, so I don't think they're gonna work out. Also, so Ben, he seems really nice,
Mm.
but I definitely don't think I like Megan for him. Him being cheap though, like he also has to come off of that a little bit because it was funny when he said that he wants to like stay home and save money, and then it cut to her saying that she wants to travel, and then his friends were talking about, oh, what if your wife wants to like travel and get out and do
Yeah.
all this stuff, and he's like, that wouldn't work. So I think he probably, like, who doesn't want AC in San Diego? I've never been to San Diego, but it's in California, so it can't be like cool, like
Yeah, it's not San Francisco.
who doesn't want the AC on, he's like, I just
That,
want to.
and I wish they would have asked, his friends would have asked this, like, okay, well, are you looking to be cheap with her money and your money? Or is it you're looking to be frugal with the whole pot?
Mm-hmm.
Because I think, for some people, they go into marriages and it's very much, hey, I have my bucket, you have your bucket, we pay
Yeah.
our bills, and you can be as cheap as you want and I can have the lifestyle that I want. For me, the bigger, I don't want to say bigger red flag, but
Mm-hmm.
for them, it definitely will be, because the vibe that I'm getting from her is that she's not like his mom. Him just being a mama's boy, I mean, it's great that you have love and appreciation for your mom, but this whole comparing women to your mom, it's weird. And at his age, I would expect by now that you should differentiate between, okay, my mom is my mom. She has these great qualities.
Yeah.
I would have understood if he said, like, hey, my mom was very compassionate, these things. And I would like someone who has, these qualities, not so much like, oh, if they're not like her, she's like perfect. It was just weird.
Also with like the experts, I wonder if he presented that to them, because it seems like he would be more interested in a like more traditional woman. And it doesn't seem like Morgan is. So I really think this is the biggest mismatch of this season. Like they just threw them together.
Yeah, it was very odd, but he did say that he's willing to travel to Peru to do charity work. So it sounds like he is willing to travel and do the things that he's passionate about.
Yeah.
I just hope that he isn't picking and choosing when he wants to be frugal about things that are important to her versus him.
Like my way or the highway. We spend on what I want to spend on. We, don't spend on the things that I don't want to spend on. So yeah, I get it.
And I wonder if he wants kids.
Did she say she wanted kids?
I don't remember either one of them mentioning kids, but as frugal as he is, no AC, clipping coupons.
He's gonna have to learn.
Yeah. I'd be curious to see if he wants kids, because that's one of the most expensive things that you could do.
Yeah.
So even, we'll see.
Yeah. That's all I have on them for first impressions. I would like to move to Kristen and Mitch. And I want to start out by saying that she's 32 and he's 41.
Yes.
And while if she were 42 and he were like maybe 51, I don't know that I would be having this conversation, but 32 is very much still close to 20s, right? And so I think that can be a problem. But yeah, what do you think about that age range?
Yeah, so the age range, I think for me, I wasn't as concerned. I think the red flag that I saw was mostly on Mitch's side, how much his brother was talking about, like, hey, in marriage, you can't run. This is your first real commitment. So once again, the producers, they cut to her saying her red flag would be someone who's older and they've never had a serious relationship.
Said, if you're like 40 and not married or haven't been married, like, and he's over 40, but I feel like, sorry, just to come back to it, I feel like she's a young 32, and that's why the 41 thing might be a turn off. And then him being 41 and not ever being committed, I think both of those things will be a problem. I think his brother, and we had a lot of opinionated brothers this episode, but I think his brother thinks this is a mistake and he just doesn't want to say it, because he's like, his brother looked like he felt sorry for the poor woman he's going to marry.
Yeah, even he was talking about, like, hey, are you going to be willing to tone it down, for your spouse? I don't know. He's just giving me like, yes, I'm older, I'm secure, kind of stuck in my ways.
Yeah.
Maybe a bit overly critical. So I think the age gap maybe wouldn't matter as much, maybe if he didn't present himself in that way. Also, maybe if, not that he would have had to have been married, I just think that it is interesting that, you haven't had not one long-term, multiple year, maybe even a year or two relationship that you would reference at 41.
I don't, so I do think Mitch has problems, but I also think Kristen does. Two things that I noted for her. One was, wow, you really spent your whole life savings on a bum, pretty much. Like, you met him, he was on somebody's couch. I don't know who paid for that wedding, but I'm willing to guess like it was.
She said it was her. She said
okay, yeah, that's right, because it was her savings. But I didn't know if it was like she paid for the whole thing, or he at that point contributed, or
She said she
whatnot.
paid for the whole thing.
But yeah, so I think that's very concerning because we really like, I hate to see that. And so she
And
hasn't
she
too
said she
much.
was with the person for 5 years. So that was another thing.
Exactly. So that was the first thing. But then also, you really think telling your dad the day of the wedding is the best way to navigate this? Like,
Like
where
you said, young 32.
she's just not thinking things through again. Like that's why you had to go to Puerto Rico with your friends instead of the men you would marry, because you just don't, you're not thinking things through.
Yeah. And her friends call that out about her. Like she's willing to take risk and live life on the edge.
Yeah.
But I think her waiting to tell her dad, I think, is to spare her the emotional turmoil leading up to the day. If he tells her, say, like a week before, like, hey, I'm not coming. So I think for her, it's like, okay, well, if it's the day of and he decides I'm already going to go through with it
Mm-hmm.
and it is what it is, I'm not saying that it's right. It just seems that she's doing that out of fear and also to maybe even force his hand to participate
She's
because he,
avoiding.
yeah, he would already be in the building.
So
So
she's
it
not
would,
an effective communicator.
yeah.
You know that. She's very much an avoider. Like, I don't know, but I don't want to be too hard on her because I do think these are really hard circumstances and it is a father and a daughter. But I was just like, good girl,
Mm-mm.
that is not
One
the way to handle those things.
one thing that I will call out, it seems like both of them really love the ocean. And for Mitch, I think a positive, because I think she wants to have kids, is that he spent a year plus being a nanny for his niece. And so,
Yeah.
you know,
And she wanted someone who was committed to and passionate about the work that he does. And she's like, oh, he doesn't
mhm,
have to be crazy ambitious, but, I want to see that he's passionate about what he does. And he very much is. So I think that
mhm.
was one thing, that was the one thing that I thought made sense for the two of them and the kids. So two things.
Yeah. I will say one thing on the passionate part,
Yeah.
kind of the same thing going back to Ben and Morgan
Mm-hmm.
is, and what's his name, Miguel and Lindy is, okay, you have this passion for the environment. So how does that play into your relationship and expectations at home? And
Mm-hmm.
so I think he talked a little bit about being a minimalist and really all about the environment. I mean, there's levels to things. So I just wonder what his expectation will be, now that you're married. If are you going to be complaining that she's buying too much plastic and she's not disposing of it in the right way? And,
Yeah.
I think it's being passionate about it, but then also like, how does it affect your lifestyle with your
Yeah.
spouse?
Okay. Yeah, very good point. Very good point. Anything else on those two besides them
No,
being ready to have kids?
no, I will say though, as far as her still going to Key West and celebrating,
Mhm.
I actually like that about her.
Was it Key West or Puerto Rico?
It was Key West.
Huh.
Yeah,
I don't
it
know
was
what I
Key West.
heard because I definitely have Puerto Rico.
No, I think it was Key West. But yeah, I like the fact that she still went and had a great time with her friends. And I think that could also show a side of her being able to bounce back. And yes, she had spent a lot of money, but a lot of people would have just stayed home and been like, all right, well, like in a state of like grieving, I
Yeah.
guess. But yeah, I'm like, okay, kudos to you, girl, for like getting it together, still having a good time, a memorable trip. So yeah,
She deserved it. I mean, she spent her money on it. She might as
it,
well
it was hers.
enjoy, right?
Um,
Okay. So Stasha, which we're not sure how to pronounce it. We think it's Stasha. On the after party, I'm pretty sure they said Stasha, but
okay.
it might be Stasia. But if we're wrong, we'll correct on
Hmm.
episode 2. But Stasha and Nate. So she is 37 and he is
Hmm.
34. What are your thoughts on these two?
Well, hmm. I say we start with Nate.
Okay.
Yeah, I think uh Nate seems like he's a nice guy who's finally found his footing to where he's able to take care of himself and he kind of knows where he wants his career to go.
Mm-hmm.
But it also seems like he might not be as stable in his career as she is. And I think that might be a red flag for her. I think also, she mentioned that I know we're not talking about her yet, but she mentioned that she's into investing in real estate. But for him, he said like, hey, I'm into taking risk as well. And I think he said he's a day trader. But I think that type of risk and job in terms of like stability, I think is a little bit different. So I'm interested to see how she takes to kind of where he is in his career. And if that's going to align with the level of ambition that she's expecting.
So I will say, because she mentioned he doesn't have to be as ambitious as I am, but I want to see ambition. So I think he checks that off, but I do have the same concerns that you have because she's very much put together. It seems like she might even be in a space where her side hustles can take care of her. Like he has side hustles and she has like I don't even know that you could call her side hustles like side hustles because they seem like they might be lucrative enough for her to live off of. Whereas like if you are making earrings or handbags here or there, or, maybe you do makeup on the side, like to me, those are like side hustles. And it seems like that's where he is in life right now. And so, so I'm really concerned, especially with her and her mom mentioning like a postnuptial agreement, because it's like, okay, she has things to protect, and he might be the type of person because his risk taking is like kind of, I don't want to say a lower level, but it's just different. Like he could potentially be the type of person to come in and mess up her finances. So that's something that she really needs to consider and look into.
Yeah. But he did say that he's looking for a strong, confident, independent woman who's very ambitious. So
I think he's going to love her. I don't think it's going to be a problem of, is she the woman for him? I think it'll be more of a problem of like, is he the man for her? Just because she's so accomplished. Also, she's a little bit older than he is, 3 years. But I think that, yeah, I would love to see Nate in 3 more years, And so I don't know if she's at the place where she's like, okay, that's fine. I'll stick with you for those 3 years. Or if it's a thing of, I would like to see Nate in 3 years too. Get at me when I'm 40 and you're 37 or something like that. So, I mean, he used to sell knockoffs. Like he admitted. So like his side hustle game is just like not real estate investment.
No, it's not. One thing that as we move into Stasha, I will mention about her, she's a boss, she's accomplished, very well put together. I do wonder because she said, I think she was talking to her mom. She said, I've been spending all this time working, of course, I haven't had time to date. I do wonder if even with her going through this process, that she's really open and willing to, I don't know if it's pull back or make a life adjustments to have space for partnership and love. Because I know she mentioned like, hey, a lot of men are intimidated by me because what I've accomplished and what I do. If she's a boss, she's probably very busy. And so I know that it may not seem like that big of a deal, even if he's not the guy for her. I just wonder if she's really in the headspace to reconfigure some things so that she has the space and time for that.
I got the sense that she was.
Really? I don't know.
When she was sitting down talking to her mom, which by the way, that was a beautiful place where they met up. I'm like, people in San Diego, can y'all let us know where that is? Because that was like a really like all the florals and stuff. But yeah, I got the sense that she's like, I've done all that. I'm at a good place with all of that. And this is something that I also want. And I think her go-getter attitude might apply to this as well, where it's like, I mean, she's on a show called Married at First Sight. So it's
Mhm.
obviously something that she's decided that she wanted and she's going after. So
Mhm.
I didn't get the sense that it'll be a problem, but I do think that's something that will be interesting to look at throughout this season. See if
Yeah. I wasn't saying that I think it'll be a problem. I'm just interested to see if she's open to doing that, because it will be a change for her.
Mhm.
Because I've even seen that in my own life, where I feel like people who are very ambitious, obviously they're focusing, whether it's on their studies, on their work, they work a lot of hours, or um, they have I don't want to say odd hours, but they may keep odd hours for whatever reason, to meet the goals that they're trying to, and it can leave little space and time to cultivate relationships, from a romantic standpoint, because that's also a time and investment as well. So we'll see.
Yeah. So I guess we only have one more couple left to talk about. And that was the couple that got married, but we'll wait to talk about like the wedding.
Mhm.
Alexis and Justin, she's 29, he's 33. Uh, I like when the experts come and say why they match people, because it always makes sense what they say. But then we meet the actual people and it's like, I don't know if that makes all the sense. Not necessarily Alexis and Justin, but just in general. But she, Pastor Cal said, oh, he's looking for like a cheerleader and she's looking for a low key guy. Now, when he initially said that, I really saw Justin as a low key guy. As the episode progressed, I'm like, he ain't that low key. But she definitely does seem like the cheerleader. I think it's interesting that both of them have a past with engagements and proposals. Listen, her name is Alexis. I'm gonna get a ring, whatever her last name is, because 3
Listen,
proposals, child.
some of us
Yeah,
can't even get one, half of one.
I know, but I thought their past were interesting. But she said no to all the proposals,
Mhm.
so yeah, she
And
wasn't
she's just 29. I mean, that for me isn't as much of a red flag. Like, she mentioned the high school guy. I don't even know if I would count that.
right.
College,
2
barely
in
count
college,
that. So
yeah.
I kind of only maybe will count the last one. I don't know.
Yes, and then he was engaged.
Oh yeah. So yeah, let's start with him being engaged, and the way he served that story up was that the previous engagement ended because she was looking for someone to take care of her, or a sugar daddy.
Yeah, he did say he was like 23, 24. So I can see
Yeah.
how that would be a problem, if he's a 23-year-old man a year out of college and he's not making bank like that, and that she has that expectation, you know? So
Mhm.
I can see that being valid. Um, yeah. What's interesting is somebody tweeted last night that they know somebody who went on a date with Justin. And she said that people weren't concerned about what he thought they were concerned about, which was he packing because he's so tall and whatever, whatever. But she said like people didn't necessarily find him attractive. Um,
Mm.
but on the other side, he was a big spender. So maybe like that relationship has, I don't know, taken a, it's something that he remembered, and so now he's very like
Mhm.
generous with his money. But yeah,
Yeah, let's talk about him continuing to refer to what I guess women are on him for, or him being a piece of meat. I wouldn't have mind if he mentioned it once,
right.
but he kept bringing it up. It was just odd. Um, I mean, I'll leave it up to y'all to decide if if it's believable.
Girl, it was like a part of his personality or something. Like,
Yeah, it was giving me how Elijah kept talking about Isaac. It's just like, let it go. We know you used to be a player from the Himalayas. Like, let it go. So yeah, I was not here for him bringing it up so much.
yeah.
I won't say if I believe it or not, but I just wasn't here for it,
Yeah.
and it be just because it didn't serve a purpose, because it was almost like, okay, well, they thought you were a piece of meat. Okay, then what? Now what?
Exactly.
It added no value to his story or
Mhm.
anything.
I wanted to say about Alexis that I like that she acknowledged that she had unrealistic expectations. Now, granted, I think they served her well. Like maybe she really wasn't ready to be married
Mm-hmm.
high school, early college, and then like right after college. But I liked that she acknowledged her faults,
Mm-hmm.
and that she's like, I'm hoping to like turn that around. So yeah, I thought that was really really nice. And I liked her a lot,
Yeah.
like this episode. So we'll
I
see.
will say, I was kind of searching for what else, like, why did they pair them? Like, I know
Mhm.
that they said, like, oh, he's a low key guy, she's a cheerleader. But other than that, I know she kept mentioning that she wanted someone tall. Well, girl, you got a tree, as he calls himself.
Okay.
But other than that, I was just like, okay, why were they really paired?
Mhm. Because
That's
there's
what I
two
wrote.
black
Like,
people why?
why?
who want to be with black people, and there weren't a lot of options in Sydney. I don't know, girl.
Yeah, I'm just not. I mean, they didn't mention what either one of them do for a living. I know she's into sports, but he's tall, but he didn't really mention that he's into sports like that.
He played basketball, but he said it was chosen for him, so it doesn't seem like that's his interest.
Yeah, so I was just searching for, okay, why did they pair them? Maybe it's because they've both been close to marriage before. I don't know.
But I
I
will
just,
say, when he went to tell his friends, like at the thing that he and his friends did, they said that the woman they saw for him was pretty much everything that we saw in Alexis.
mm,
And so I thought that was like, I actually wrote that down because I'm like, okay, his friends pretty much described her, it seemed.
mm-hmm,
So, and then when we get to the wedding part, it did seem like some compatibility, but yeah, so
mm-hmm,
I don't know what else there was, but that seemed cool. Do we
yeah.
want to talk about when they went shopping for their dress and their suit, or do we want to go to the bachelor and bachelorette parties?
We could just go to the Bachelor and Bachelorette. I don't remember anything super memorable about the dress shopping other than his brother. I don't,
Yeah, his brother.
yeah.
Well, also I thought his suit was really nice. So
Yeah.
I wanted to mention I liked it a lot, and I thought it was a good fit for him. So
Mm,
it looked nice on him. Obviously, her dress looked
yeah,
good.
looked good.
But yeah, he was definitely feeling himself in that suit. Anyway, bachelor and bachelorette parties, and
Hmm.
just the girls and the guys meeting. Like we can talk about all of those together because I think
Yeah.
the one weird thing that happened with the guys meeting was Miguel and his poetry. And I love when they do like the music in the back, but like they
Hmm.
literally like cut it after his poem stopped. And I was like, that was a really great use of of sound. And Foss would be proud if she's watching this.
Yeah.
She'll be so proud of like their use of music because yeah, it was interesting. His
Yeah.
poetry.
Well, I'll talk about with the guys. Mitch was definitely throwing shade here and there.
And he's too old to be doing that.
Shady boots. Maybe it's just he's the oldest, so he's like, I'm gonna say what I want to say. I don't know. I'm like, you just met these people.
Exactly.
But yeah,
I didn't
and
think
then
there was anything crazy about their meeting besides the poetry and you're right,
yeah.
like Mitch. And then the
Hmm.
girls' meeting, I thought it went kind of well. Obviously, Alexis thinks Lindy talks too much,
And
and
she's not personable.
she's not personable. Yeah, so I was like, obviously they're not gonna like each other throughout the season because at the
Mm-mm,
bachelorette party, when Alexis was twerking with her friend,
mm-mm.
but she wasn't even like she was just dancing like with her friend. Uh, Lindy did not approve.
Twerking and minding her own business.
Right. Yeah. So, but I don't think did anything crazy happen at the bachelorette party.
No, I think other than Married at First Sight being super messy, where how you said how when the experts explain why they paired the people the way that they did, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. But then they cut to these scenes where, Stasha is like, oh, as long as he doesn't take it too far with a woman, and
there
then
goes
he's doing
Nate
the most.
taking it too far.
And,
Yeah.
and then, Kristen mentioning about the whole commitment issues, being with an older person who's never been committed before. And then they cut to, then we know what he says, like, oh, I've never been in a committed relationship. So it's just like,
Yeah.
okay, y'all.
So I think the two things at the bachelor party that happened were Nate doing the absolute. I was very uncomfortable with how he was speaking to the young lady.
The fact that it was just on TV in the first place, all of that. Like, what is it?
I was just like, I think before then, I'm like, okay, I really hope this guy got his stuff together. I'll be rooting for them, After that, it was just distasteful, and I understand, like, that's a particular type of setting, but I think he could have been more respectful.
It was awkward too, just because the setup.
It was participating.
Huh?
Oh, I thought you were gonna say just because the other men weren't participating, like they were all
the whole scene. It's not like they were in a strip club, and it was a bunch of other people, and the vibe or mood was right. No, you're in this big open space, lights on. Nobody else is really participating, so you're the only one. It was just an awkward setup.
Get on your knees, like, eh.
And then the whole thing was a hot. If I were her and I stayed with him and I watched it back, I would be mortified.
Because that's how you're representing me out here. That's the representation. That's the idea people have of my husband.
And she's so well put together in the field that she's in. It would make me feel like, okay, aside from me, I don't want you as an individual doing that.
But she was the one who asked the uncircumcised question.
I feel like
she was the one who posed that. So even though she's well put together, it's not like she's it's not like that topic is completely off the table. Like,
the topic isn't off the table, but I think it's different from what he did.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I just think
he's not a prude.
If he did what he did and he was paired with Lindy, that would be like, oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can see, I'm still I don't like that for her. But it's not, like I said, like if you were paired with Lindy.
It was just an awkward hot mess.
It was horrible. I would never forget that. But the second thing was Justin's brother kind of turned up on him about, you not ready. What did you think about that?
Terrible. It's fine. Express how you feel. You've already said that you're not here for me getting married, but if you're going to come to an event that's related to the wedding, pick a side. If you're gonna show up and support and lean in. I'm not saying you have to be all smiles and be fake, but definitely don't make a scene. So I'm here for him disagreeing about the process and him being a part of it. I'm not okay for the way that whole scene went down. Just because it's like, okay, at least hold it together and share your grievances later. It's a party.
It seemed like an older sibling and a younger sibling who needed to have that conversation of, I'm grown, and you need to respect. You can have your opinions, you can tell me what they are, but just because you're the older sibling and you kind of have in your mind that I'm this younger sibling who is irresponsible and all that, you have to also recognize that I am an adult who has been functioning as an adult, and so I'm the last child, so I understand that sometimes conversations need to be had to prevent these moments from happening. So
and it's like, okay, well, are you against the process, or is it just that you think he's not ready to be married? Or is it both?
And he could be right. Because Justin seemed like a low-key guy at the beginning because he was crying, because you could tell he was really hurt by his brother, dang, this is what you think of me. And on the after party, they talked about it a little bit, and he was saying after the last marriage didn't work, he moved out of the country. and I guess recently moved back, or maybe in the last several years moved back. And so he feels like his brother hasn't seen his growth from we just called off an
Mhm.
engagement to now. And so that's why he had that opinion of him, which is fair. But yeah,
Mhm.
yeah,
Mm.
I thought it just wasn't the right place for it.
It wasn't.
Also,
Mm.
I felt a type of way that was the first time his brother had heard that he was going through the process, because I do think what his brother said was fair in that you just sprung this up on me and now you want me to be all excited like we're at
Oh,
the table.
yeah.
And so they didn't even know he was considering doing this process
Mhm.
from the exchange at the table. They didn't even know he was doing it. So it's just like, oh, I signed up for this TV show. Also, 2 weeks, get married. And so I could understand his brother's reaction at the table. Again,
Mhm.
the bachelor party was a bit much. He came around at the wedding.
Yeah, I mean, you also don't wanna embarrass yourself again on national television.
That's true.
Mm.
So are we good to talk about the wedding now?
Mhm. Yep.
Okay. So this is probably one of my favorite weddings that I've seen on Married at First Sight. I think the
Mhm.
exception might be Woody and Amani, which I don't know if you've seen that season, but they're
Mm-mm.
kind of like the Married at First Sight sweethearts. They just had a baby.
Aw.
They were Married at First Sight New Orleans, and they were just a beautiful couple to watch. But yeah, it was one of my favorite weddings for a
Mhm.
few reasons. Like one, where they asked him before he saw her, "What is your ideal woman?" He said
Mhm.
something that was not her. I think he
Mhm.
said like caramel tone and um long hair. So like he said something that wasn't her. So I was concerned
Mhm.
when she was about to walk in, even though I thought she looked beautiful.
Mhm.
So when she came down, he was like, wow, and was saying like she's
Mhm.
stunning and things like that. And she comes up all giggly and she was
Yeah.
nervous and he like reached out his hands to like hold her hands. And just they're like they were talking, they were vibing at the altar during the ceremony. So it was a
Mhm.
ceremony, but like almost a first date, you know? And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed that dynamic.
I agree. Lots of laughs. It felt like they had good chemistry at the altar. I'm like, okay, this.
It did. And so when they walked out and she said, she said she didn't find him attractive. Well, she said, like, he's not my usual type. He's not usually what I would go for. I'm like, girl, you played that off so well. Alyssa from last season, are you taking notes? Because she
Did
played it off.
she? But didn't, maybe I'm wrong, but didn't she say, well, he's not awful?
I think I just remember, I don't know the exact words, but I do remember her saying,
Mhm.
like, he's not bad. He's just not what I would go for.
Mm. Okay.
But yeah, but I did like the chemistry, girl. She was laughing so loud at the altar. I'm like, okay, girl.
Listen.
But I like people who are giggly and laughing. It just it's like an inviting, I think,
Mhm.
way of being. There was one more thing. He kept doing the high fives, and she was like, "Oh, I don't really like high fives." She's like, "I think it's a little bit corny." And he's like, "I'll change it." What did you think of that about that exchange?
So, okay, so at the altar, I was getting good chemistry, good vibes.
Yeah.
By the time they went to go sit down, I was getting homeboy, homegirl vibes.
Really? Okay.
Really, yes. I know she was holding his hand here and there, but just the exchange, it just felt very homeboy, homegirl like.
Mhm.
The high fives, I think, made it worse.
I'm glad she
And
told him to stop.
the way he was like, girl, I'm just like, y'all my girlfriend. This is your wife. And I know it was probably some nervousness
For
or
sure.
whatever. I am glad that she called it out. So that shows that she's good about speaking up if there's something that she doesn't like.
And I
Because
like how he received it.
mhm.
Like he didn't make a big deal about it. He was just like, okay, that's fine, I can stop. And it's just like, okay, moving right along. Like
Mhm.
I liked that. I think homegirl, homeboy isn't bad on the first day though. Like they just met
No.
30 minutes ago. So
Yeah.
I don't think it's bad now.
Yeah, it's not bad now. I just am not getting the full chemistry vibes like I did at the altar.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
And
fair.
as far as the attraction thing, I know she said that, oh, he's not bad, or he's not my type. I don't think that she's attracted to him. I'm just gonna put it out there. That's my opinion. I don't think she's
Yeah.
attracted to him, but I think she's not like Alyssa. She's going to keep an open mind, which I could appreciate. So
I think she's going into this with the right mind and that she's gonna give it a try. She already is. Just trying to
mhm,
see what they connect on and stuff like that. So I think even if they don't work out, like we won't be saying, oh, she didn't give him a chance, like we were with
mhm,
Alyssa and Jasmina and all that from last season. So yeah.
yeah.
Let me make sure I don't have anything else.
Yeah, that was all I had on the wedding. I just hope he doesn't bring up to her about why these women in the streets really want him. I don't want to hear no more of that.
It's enough. Relax. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Well, that is it for our first impressions. We'll watch the weddings next week, and I feel like we'll probably have one more wedding the week after, and
Mhm,
the like honeymoon night. I mean the like the first night. So maybe after all of the weddings, then we'll give our predictions on who we think will stay together and who we think will not.
mhm.
So yeah. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe. We have a new podcast episode coming out tomorrow morning. So please make sure you watch that and subscribe to the channel. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye.